Alright, so what's going on? It's Joe. Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Deep Art, and we back with another video, Critical Thought. We got a special video for y'all today that we want to go ahead and talk about. And in this video, what we're gonna go ahead and talk about today right here in this video is alignment. Alright, so alignment is the video that is what we want to talk about. And when we talk about alignment, like, you know, it's like when you look at certain things, it's how things line up. Sometimes certain things don't line up. There's only, you know, certain way. There's only like a certain alignment of sources or resources. Like when things line up in a certain way, that allow you to be able to to hit points or hit moves that you initially couldn't, or would be much more difficult to hit or make when everything else isn't lined up that way. So it's really just the utilage and the you know, catering to, you know, and of just, you know, it's the you know, utilizing and just like the caterings of terrain and just you know, layout and just like the vicinity, you know, to your advantage, or to, you know, seeing in manipulation to the advantage, to be able to do more or do certain things easier, and it's that, right? And being able to measure that might be good as well. Measuring that might be good as well. So that's what alignment is, and just, you know, just being able to align certain things, or just wait and be patient and sort of conduct things in a certain way, allow them to line up. You know, and that's alignment. Whether it's nature or whether it's something else. I mean, whether it be nature, or whether it be you know, weather, trees, or, you know, something else. Lining these specific things up together, to be able to sort of just lining certain things up to you to be able to sort of, you know, whether it's nature, trees, leaves, you know, chemicals or plants, you know, from the specific time of year, or maybe whatever is just the season, and just like maybe the leaves are like red and they're falling down, and maybe the leaves are green and they're coming back on trees, you know. And it's just like utilizing the alignment of specific things to your terrain in order to do things, or to complete, you know, to execute, you know, certain tasks or actions or commitments or whatever, or just things, period, you know, that you normally wouldn't be able to commit or commit to, or just be able to just do as easily, you know, when, you know, as opposed to when, you know, when things line up, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's because of that, you know, them things lining up, that you can do these things, that these things become a lot more doable and a lot more easy. So, with that being said, that's alignment. This is a video on alignment. Hopefully this is a good video for y'all. Maybe it's even your health, you know. Maybe it's like alignment to your health, and you just want to get your health right and just align in a certain way that you might not be able to do in a previous season, right? Maybe it's seasons, right? Maybe it's just a health thing, and it's just like, you know, winter, or maybe a winter thing. What I meant to say, you know, and it just be like, you know, because it's the winter season, your body reacts to the weather and the chemicals and the changes of the environment and nature ecosystem in a specific way, that is, which causes your body, or that which causes a certain state of being, I guess, in that seat, so which allows you to maybe to do certain things or not be able to commit certain tasks as easy, right, or as difficult. So with that being said, it's all, what I meant, just the variability of what you can and can't do, or just the tasks that are easier and less easy to, sort of, complete or commit to, and, just functioning as well, certain, the bodily functioning in terms of just seasons, and just how your body sort of functions differently throughout the seasons, and just proper sort of, I guess, management of this and cadence of, these, that sort of intel and that sort of data. Or I guess just that sort of, that sort of thing. So, with that being said, I think we covered, a lot of the bases of the things we want to talk about. Whether it's a thing of like perfection and alignment, right? Even hydration, right? Hydration is another thing. That's another thing which is kind of like, it kind of goes along with nature and terrain. Like, hydration becomes, more of an effective thing, or maybe an easier thing to do, and it might serve a different function, and it might even just help you perform a specific way, depending on just these other factors as well, right? Hydration might help you to, move differently, perform differently. Maybe it may help you to be more active, or maybe help you to think in a more specific way, as well. And depending on the season as well, will also dictate how effective, hydration will be, or that sort of thing is to, or hydration will be, or what, to I guess that specific sort of functioning, right, within whatever season that is. So it's just all a matter of just terrain and just like ecosystem and just like environmental and just sort of the alignment sort of thing, and just like how things align, and what sort of resources you can use to better commit yourself and better boost yourself, depending on what that season is, or depending on what those sort of alignments are, right? The sun coming out more, and how it affects nature and how it affects grass, soil, plants, trees, that sort of thing. Water as well, water, which helps things to grow, along with the sunlight combined. You're taking in more hydration. Hydration might be a lot more effective in sunlight, in terms of helping you to grow, simply because, it's more sunlight, you know what I mean? So like it might serve the same functions, especially if you're in nature drinking water, as what it's doing in nature, helping it grow, right? So just being around those chemicals and those environments of growth, might help, with hydration, in sunlight, might help you also be able to sort of retain some growth and heal some things, right? That sort of thing, right? Just alignment, I think that's very crucial. Number one, I think that's very crucial, and I think that's a huge thing, that sort of alignment right there. And another thing about alignment is just, just certain, of course, fruits and, fruits, vegetables, and just like things that grow off plants and trees, and, that come off plants and trees, in the spring season as well, might be a lot more effective, to you, right? Those things might be a lot more effective. Like, we know oranges, stuff like that grow they grow in like the summer and stuff, right? Like lemons, stuff like that. Like the things that grow in the summer and the spring now start to spring forth might be more beneficial to you in the spring and summer now, along with, saying hydration and sunlight, along with the growing of the plants and the trees, right? In the soil, and just watering that soil, right? So that's another thing, you know what I mean? So just that sort of thing might be more beneficial and helpful as well. You know, just being able to do, you know, just another thing. You know, that might be another thing as well. So yeah, you know, and another thing too, and as well, you know, like you said, just nature, just the chemicals and stuff, right? The chemicals and the sort of offspring with the trees you're giving off and that sort of thing, like being in nature period, is going to be very beneficial because there might be a lot more minerals and a lot more, you know what I'm saying, you know, vitamins and minerals and amino, you know what I'm saying, you know, and essentials, you know, that you're getting in the spring season because it's all associated with growth. You know what I mean? And it's like when, you know, and with all that still circling around, you know, you get to see how these sorts of things start to grow. Certain plants or animals, you know, and how they start to grow. So just being around, you know, this sort of environment, you know, as well. Just being around this environment, period, is gonna most likely help, you know, your growth and just, you know, playing off this sort of terrain and this trajectory is definitely gonna be very beneficial because it's already you know, because that's putting you in alignment with something it's already happening anyway, right? So it's always an advantage to be able to use terrain and to use trajectory. Or terrain, and to use sort of other sorts of advantages, you know, in terms of just like alignment of processes, right? Whether they're processes you create or whether it be processes that are already happening and just aligning with those processes, right? And just playing off those processes, you know, and I think that's just a major beneficial thing. And I feel like, you know, even my own, like, just myself, just like getting more comfortable with that, just being able to play off already, you know what I'm saying, established processes, being more comfortable with that, it would be very, very, you know, beneficial and be a very, very huge kicker in terms of just like my life and my own success, you know what I mean? And, you know, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, you know what I'm saying? And being able to do that is what, you know, I feel like is what builds, you know, what really builds empires, you know, or what really could build very established systems, right? So with that being said, that being said, I think alignment is very important, you know, for just a few different reasons, a lot of different reasons, right? You know what I mean? One of those reasons, like I said, just using certain things to your advantage, processes you start or processes that are just already started, you know what I'm saying, and just being able to play off and just use, just use those processes, you know, play off the terrain and use those processes to your advantage, you know what I mean, and just playing off those, right? And I feel like it's very crucial, you know, and just getting good at that, right? You know, it's very crucial, you know, whether it be like I said, like nature and just like seasons and just like the fact that, you know, certain things happen at a specific season, utilizing those certain things that happen within those seasons to your advantage, and then being able to sort of make processes happen or sort of just being able to play off those things to help you, you know, produce certain things. It will produce more output in things, you know, in certain things, right? I think that's crucial. I think that's very beneficial. And that could come from anything, man, you know what I mean? It could come from age, you know, it could come from, you know, just location, geography, just like where you at a specific location. You might be with your aunt, you might be with your uncle, you might be, you know what I'm saying, certain people. You might be with a certain environment, certain people that allow you to be able to push a certain way. That's also terrain, you know, or you might be, you know, somewhere else, you know, maybe at home with, you know, just you might be somewhere else as well, with friends or something. And that also might be also could be a terrain, right? That's also a terrain, you know, that you can use to your advantage to be able to push a specific sort of narrative, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the important thing to really, like, understand